son called me a terrible father. For about 5 seconds, I was ready to tell him he was wrong. 38 years of paying bills, working overtime, keeping food on the table, teaching him to drive, showing up whenever something needed fixing. I had my answer ready. Then he said one more sentence, a sentence I hadn't thought about in 40 years. We were standing in his driveway after a family barbecue. Everyone else had gone inside. Paper plates were stacked by the trash can. The grill was still ticking as it cooled. He looked at me and quietly said, "You were always there." He looked down at the driveway before finishing. "Just never with me." I've heard that sentence in my head almost every day since. Not because it was cruel, because I couldn't honestly prove him wrong. My name's Dennis. I'm 66 years old. I drove a city bus for 37 years. Same city, same depot, mostly the same routes.
If you'd ridden the number 14 through downtown long enough, chances are I'd driven you at least once. I retired 4 years ago. Carol and I have been married 38 years. We raised 2 kids, Mark and Emily. If you'd asked me back then what kind of father I was, I'd have said, a dependable one. I never disappeared, never drank away a paycheck, never missed a mortgage payment. My family never had to wonder whether I'd come home at night. To me, that was fatherhood. My alarm rang every morning at 4:30. Even in January, when scraping ice off the windshield took longer than the drive to the depot. Carol was almost always awake before I was. Coffee was already brewing. She'd pour it into the same faded travel mug I'd carried for years. 2 slices of toast, sometimes an egg, sometimes just peanut butter. She'd ask, "Long shift?" I'd shrug, "They're all long." She'd smile, "Drive safe." I'd kiss her, grab my keys, walk out the door. I don't think either one of us realized how many mornings would go by just like that. When Mark was little, Saturdays meant work around the house, changing the oil, mowing the lawn, cleaning the gutters. He followed me everywhere, mostly because he wanted to help, mostly because he slowed me down. He'd hand me the wrong wrench. I'd grin, "No, buddy, the 1/2 inch." He'd dig through the toolbox like he was searching for buried treasure. When he finally found it, he smiled like he'd fixed the car himself. Back then, I thought those mornings counted for more than they probably did. I coached exactly 1 season of Little League. 1. Parents still remembered it years later. I taught Mark how to grip a bat, keep his eye on the ball, step into the swing. He wasn't the best player. Didn't matter. After every game, we'd stop for burgers. He talked almost the entire ride home about bad calls, good catches, kids on the other team. At least, I think he did. The truth is, I remember the burgers. I remember the drive. I don't remember much of what he was trying to tell me. I was usually thinking about Monday morning. When Mark turned 16, I taught him to drive. 2 weekends in an empty shopping centre parking lot. The first time he hit the brakes too hard, we both lurched forward. His eyes got wide. I laughed. "So, the brakes work?" He laughed too. That became one of my favourite memories. For years I held on to moments like that, little bits of proof that I'd done all right. Not perfectly, but well enough. Evenings were predictable. Dinner around 6, television after that, usually baseball, sometimes the local news. By then I was tired, not angry, not upset, just
empty. Mark would start telling us something about school. I'd nod without taking my eyes off the television. Emily would tell Carol about her day. I'd catch every third sentence. If either of them asked for advice, I'd give it. If they didn't, I usually stayed quiet.
Back then, I thought quiet meant comfortable. I never stopped to ask whether it meant something else to them.
Years passed. Graduations, first jobs, weddings, grandchildren, retirement. The house got quieter. Carol and I finally had time together. Mark lived about 20 minutes away, Emily a couple of hours north. We saw everyone often enough, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. After I retired, I figured Mark and I would probably spend more time together. Instead, he seemed busier than ever. He always answered if I called, always invited us over. But conversations ended sooner. Visits got shorter. Nothing dramatic, nothing anyone else would notice. Just little things. The kind of little things you ignore until one day they aren't little anymore. One Sunday, we were all at Mark's house for a barbecue. Tyler had just turned 6. He spent the whole afternoon running back and forth across the yard.
Dad?
Come look.
Dad?
Watch this.
Dad? I found a frog.
Every single time. Mark stopped what he was doing. Didn't matter if he was flipping burgers, didn't matter if he was talking to somebody. He bent down, listened, answered. Then Tyler ran off again. 5 minutes later, he'd be back with another important discovery. At one point, Mark's burger sat on the grill so long one side almost burned. Neither of them cared. I smiled. Then something hit me. I couldn't remember ever running to my own father like that. A second later, a thought that hurt even more. I couldn't remember Mark running to me that way either. Not because he didn't love me, because somewhere along the way, he'd learned Dad was usually too tired to interrupt. That thought followed me home. I didn't mention it to Carol, didn't call Mark. I just kept seeing Tyler running across that backyard. He never slowed down before talking to his dad, never looked to see if it was a good time.
He simply assumed, Dad wants to hear this.
I couldn't remember if Mark had ever felt that way about me. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. A couple of weeks later, we were back at Mark's house. Nothing special, just dinner on a Wednesday. Carol was inside helping my daughter-in-law finish the salad. The kids were tearing through the backyard with water guns. Mark and I stood by the grill. He flipped a couple of burgers. I leaned against the railing with a glass of iced tea. He mentioned Tyler had gotten into trouble at school. Talking too much, he said. I laughed. Sounds like a healthy 6-year-old. He smiled. That's what I told his teacher. I took another sip. Then I said something I'd heard men my age say 100 times. Kids today could use a little more discipline. I wasn't criticizing him, at least I didn't think I was. To me, it was just conversation. Mark didn't answer. He kept looking at the burgers.
Then he quietly said, maybe. He flipped another one. They also need someone who actually listens. I smiled. I listened. He looked over at me. Did you? I was there every day. Were you? His voice never got louder. That made it harder to argue. I worked. I took care of this family. I never walked away. I know. Then what are you seeing? He looked out toward Tyler, then back at me. You were always there. A pause. Just never with me. Neither of us spoke. The burgers kept sizzling. Someone laughed inside the house. The backyard suddenly felt a whole lot quieter. A minute later, Carol opened the screen door.
"Dinner's ready."
Neither of us moved. She looked at both of us.
"You boys okay?"
Mark answered first.
"Yeah."
I nodded. Of course, but I couldn't remember tasting a single bite of dinner that night. Every time I looked across the table, I heard the same sentence again. You were always there, just never with me. I barely slept. Around 2 in the morning, I got out of bed. The house was quiet. I walked into the garage. The fluorescent light buzzed twice before it came on. Same workbench, same pegboard, same smell of motor oil and sawdust. In the back corner was an old plastic storage bin. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside was almost his entire childhood packed into a few square feet. Little League trophies, construction paper drawings, old report cards, birthday cards, a baseball glove no bigger than my hand. I picked it up. The leather had gone stiff, the laces were dry enough to crack. Underneath everything else was a stack of Father's Day cards. Most of them were homemade, crayon, glue, crooked letters. One card slipped out onto the floor. The front showed 2 stick figures standing beside a lake. Inside, written in uneven pencil, were 6 words. Maybe next year we can go fishing. I sat down without even realizing it. I couldn't remember ever reading that card. Maybe I had. Maybe I'd smiled,
Set it down.
and left for another shift.
Or maybe Carol had tucked it away because I'd been working that Father's Day. I honestly didn't know. What hurt wasn't the card. It was not knowing whether I'd missed it or forgotten it. The next morning, Carol found me in the garage. The card was still in my hands. She didn't ask why I was sitting there. She already knew. She sat beside me, quietly. After a minute, I asked, "Was I really that absent?" She took the card, ran her thumb across the folded edge. "No." I looked at her. "You weren't absent." "Then why would Mark say that?" She thought about it for a long moment. Then she said, "You loved him." "I know. I know you did." Another pause. "But you thought loving him and understanding him were the same thing." I frowned. "I don't think I understand." She gave me a tired little smile. "You always wanted to help." "Of course. You fixed everything. Cars, leaky faucets, broken bicycles."
Broken appliances. Then she looked me straight in the eye. But children aren't broken. Sometimes they just want someone to stay with them while they're trying to figure themselves out. I didn't answer, because for the first time, I realized she'd probably been trying to tell me that for years. The rest of that day, memories just kept popping up, whether I wanted them to or not. Mark standing beside my chair after school. "Dad?" I never looked up from the newspaper. "Give me a minute." Maybe I really meant 1 minute. Maybe I always planned to listen. But 1 minute, repeated often enough, can become an entire childhood. The following Saturday I called Mark. He answered on the 3rd ring.
Hey, Dad. Got a minute? Sure. I stared out the kitchen window. I was wondering. The words felt heavier than they should have. Would you want to grab breakfast sometime? A short pause. Just us. Another pause.
Then he said, "Yeah. Tuesday? Tuesday works." Neither of us mentioned the barbecue. Neither of us mentioned what he'd said. We didn't have to. It was sitting there between us anyway. I got to the diner 15 minutes early. Old habits don't disappear just because you retire. I ordered coffee, black. The waitress filled it twice before Mark walked in. He looked tired. His work boots were still dusty. There was a little smear of ketchup on his sleeve, probably from getting Tyler ready that morning. He slid into the booth. "Morning." "Morning." For a while we talked about nothing. The weather, baseball, traffic on the interstate. Two men pretending they'd met for breakfast, instead of a conversation they'd avoided for years. Finally, I pushed my coffee cup aside. "I didn't ask you here to defend myself." He nodded. I figured. I took a breath. "I want to understand." Mark looked down at his mug, ran his thumb around the rim. Then he finally spoke. "I never doubted you loved me." I nodded. "I know. You worked hard. You took care of us. You always came home." Another pause. But he stopped. I waited. "I always knew what you'd do if the car broke down." A small smile. "I never knew what you'd do if I was scared." That one landed even harder than the sentence at the barbecue. I asked quietly, "What did I miss?" He looked out the window before answering. "You always tried to fix everything. I thought that's what fathers were supposed to do." "It is," he shrugged. "Sometimes." Then he smiled. "But sometimes I didn't need a mechanic. I needed my dad." Neither of us spoke. The waitress came over, topped off our coffee, asked if we needed anything else. We both shook our heads. She walked away. The silence stayed. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt necessary. Mark broke it. "I stopped telling you things." I looked up. "When?" "I don't know. Maybe high school." "Why?" "Because every conversation became advice." He wasn't angry. If anything, he sounded disappointed for the kid he'd used to be. "I'd tell you something happened. You'd tell me what I should do. I'd tell you I was upset. You'd explain how to fix it." He looked at me. "You weren't trying to push me away. You just never stayed in the conversation long enough for me to figure out what I was really trying to say." I leaned back, and for the first time in my life, I didn't argue, because pictures kept flashing through my head, teaching him to change a flat tire, showing him how to replace brake pads, fixing a dripping faucet together. Every lesson ended the same way. Find the problem, fix the problem, move on. Somewhere along the way, I'd started treating conversations the same way. I'd been listening for problems, not for my son. I laughed quietly. Mark looked surprised. "What's funny?" "My entire career," he smiled. "What do you mean?" "I spent 37 years listening for strange noises. If something rattled, I fixed it.
If something squeaked, I fixed it. If something stopped working, I fixed it. I looked at him. I guess I forgot people aren't buses. For the first time that morning, Mark laughed. A real laugh. So that's where I get it. Probably. We both smiled. Not because everything had been solved. Because for the first time, neither of us was trying to solve anything. As we walked out into the parking lot, I stopped beside his truck. Can I ask you one more thing? Sure. When you said I was a terrible father, he shook his head before I even finished. I didn't say you were. I looked at him. I said I felt alone. He let that sit for a second. They aren't the same thing. I hadn't realized I'd been carrying words he never actually said, only feelings. Funny how memory does that.
He rested one hand on the truck door. You made mistakes. So will I. He looked through the window at Tyler's booster seat. I'm just hoping I notice mine sooner. I nodded. So am I. He reached over, squeezed my shoulder. Didn't say another word. He didn't have to. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that breakfast. Mark didn't start calling every day. I didn't suddenly become the kind of father who always knew the right thing to say. But little things started changing. When he talked, I stopped looking for answers. When he paused, I let him finish. Sometimes the silence lasted 10 or 15 seconds. I learned not to rescue him from it. Eventually, he started talking longer. Not because I'd become wiser, because I'd finally become quieter. A few months later, I started picking Tyler up from school every Thursday. It became our day. Sometimes we'd get pancakes. Sometimes we'd stop for ice cream. Sometimes we'd just sit in the truck outside his house before he went inside. One Thursday, he climbed into the passenger seat, buckled himself in, looked over at me. Grandpa? Yeah? Can I tell you something? I smiled. I've got nowhere else to be. He spent almost the whole drive talking about school, about turtles, about a friend who'd gotten in trouble, about absolutely nothing and absolutely everything. I never interrupted, never hurried him, never tried to fix a single thing. When we pulled into the driveway, he opened the door, then stopped, turned back toward me. Thanks, I smiled. For what? For listening. He climbed out and ran toward the house. I stayed in the truck for another minute, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching him disappear through the front door. Nobody had ever thanked me for listening before. Maybe because I'd spent a lifetime answering people before they were finished talking. That evening, I walked into the garage, opened the old cabinet. The faded Father's Day card was still there. I placed Tyler's new crayon drawing beside it, one from the grandson, one from the son, years apart, side by side. I looked at them for a long time, one drawing from the little boy I'd finally learned to listen to, one from the little boy I hadn't. Closed the cabinet, turned off the light, and went back inside. I used to think being a father meant always having the right answers. Turns out,
The moments my son remembered most were the ones when he simply needed me to stay and listen.